Larger versions could launch as many as 200 rockets. These things were a significant threat to the Japanese invaders. The ammunition of the Hwacha was an explosive arrow. The device's fuses were adjusted depending on the distance to the opponent, so that they exploded on impact. When the Japanese invasion began in full force in 1592, Korea already had hundreds of these fire carts. Perhaps the greatest test of the Hwacha's strength was the Battle of Haengshu in 1593. When Japan launched an offensive of 30,000 troops in the hilltop toward Haengshu Fortress, the fortress had barely 3,000 soldiers, citizens, and fighting monks standing to defend it. The chances of defending the fortress were extremely low, and the Japanese forces moved forward in confidence, unaware that the fortress had one trump card up its sleeve: the 40 Hwachas mounted atop the outer walls. The Japanese samurai attempted to climb the hill 9 times, constantly encountering a rain of infernal flames. More than 10,000 Japanese died before they decided to abandon the siege, the first major Korean victory over the Japanese invasion. In Europe, gun inventors did not restrain their imagination in any way at all, so much so that today, some military inventors would surely be condemned for animal cruelty. For in 1530 AD, the artillery master Franz Helm of Cologne in Germany invented the use of missile cats for sieges. He wrote a military siege manual. It included descriptions of every conceivable and inconceivable bomb. Then, he added a section advising siege armies to find a cat. Any cat, he said, to come from the city you are trying to defeat. Tie a bomb to it. In theory, the cat would return home and then burn down the whole town. Whether or not that happened is not for us to determine, but probably not. According to Mitch Frost, a University of Pennsylvania scholar who had the pleasure of being the first to translate this siege text, there is no historical evidence that anyone ever tried to carry out Helm's proposed scheme. In this scenario, the most likely results would be your own burnt-out camp. But one shouldn't think that while warriors in Asia were already making full use of firearms, cats with bombs tied to them were running around Europe. By the 16th century, full-fledged firearms had already arrived there, and Europeans began to realize that if they combined bladed weapons with guns, it would be twice as awesome. That's how sword guns, axe guns, and other perversions came about. But here's a really cool weapon found in King Henry VIII's arsenal, the shield gun. These weapons were essentially wooden discs with a gun through the center, though they varied in some places. Some are padded with iron on the front, and others had a metal grill above the gun for aiming. For a long time, it was thought that these weapons were considered rather decorative curiosities, and therefore of little historical interest. Most of them went to various museums, where they were dusted on stands along with other strange medieval artifacts. However, the Victoria and Albert Museum in Britain recently studied samples of such shields and discovered that they may have been more common than most historians initially thought. So, they decided to collect as many of these shields as possible and study them carefully. It turns out that some of these gun shields had power scorches, meaning they had been used. Some were designed to block the enemy boarding a ship, where they were apparently used as an additional protective layer in a line of defensive fire. Eventually, with the decline of chivalry, such weapons disappeared, and linear warfare tactics emerged, where a soldier's life wasn't worth much. Such gadgets were forgotten by history, along with many other weapons of antiquity that were not recorded in historical documents, and any samples left were lost. Which unusual weapons do you know about? Write in the comments. And also, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and give us a like. See you around!